Now imagine that one day you are living in a city or a village or a town. You go to school, you come back home to your mother, to your father, you play with the neighbors, you hear the birds, and you do that like every other human being on the planet. And then one day, you are being asked to be separated from your family, from your father or from your mother, and taken into a refugee placement, whether temporary or long-term. The fear alone is enough to drive any human being into insanity. And every person who has been disconnected from their land and their family yesterday, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before in Ukraine, and Syria, and Lebanon, and Palestine, and wherever it is in the world, these people have already fallen into mental illness. And what happens is that once you're a refugee, you have lost all your human rights and civil rights. So imagine you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to make money, you are not allowed to create your own life, you cannot function because you have functioned in a previous society that was built on love and trust and community and education and health, and suddenly you lost it all. Now, the moment you lose it all, you fall automatically into a mental illness. And I've been in a refugee camp in my country, Lebanon, and I was robbed by a 7-year-old. Why would a 7-year-old put a knife in my neck to steal my money? Because what he has access to at a refugee camp is water, contaminated water, and rarely ever any food, in a tent with no pillow and no cover. So we are turning children that yesterday were humans into tomorrow's criminals and into the dead. Because what happens is, for survival, refugees get into drug dealing, drug addiction, street life, you name it, all that you can think of that could hit a human being, poverty, death, all of it, in the most inhumane conditions on the planet, regardless where they are. Because when you lose your human rights and your civil rights, you are in the worst place on the planet, no matter where you are. So if it looks nicer in some places than others, it doesn't mean it's better. What we have decided to do with the Heartfulness Initiative is with Reconnect is to suspend all the work that we are doing in Dubai and any other place, and restrict all our work to support and prevent mental illness in war-affected communities. And we will always start by our families. My family in Lebanon, my children in Lebanon, Syrian refugees in Lebanon, Palestinian refugees in Lebanon, are all refugees in Lebanon, including my mother and my father and my daughter, because the country has been turned into a refugee camp. In Ukraine, there is a conflict, a political conflict. Now, we've learned that in politics, nobody knows anything. And therefore, we don't care about the conflict and who's right and who's wrong. What we want to do with the Heartfulness Initiative on immediate basis in Ukraine is prevent mental illness. A mental illness that's only been there for a week is treatable very fast. A mental illness accumulated over 6 months needs 2 years to reverse, because then you've seen all the trauma, you've seen all the suffering, you've experienced it, and you've accumulated it. So what we want to do on an immediate basis is support the war-affected communities in Ukraine. Now, if that happens in Russia as well, and there are war-affected communities, we will go to Russia. So it doesn't matter if it's Russia or Ukraine, we care about war-affected communities, no matter where they are from. On an immediate level, we need your support to provide holistic mental health support and enablement program, human enablement and human performance. So here we're talking about the programs that we already work with. Saga Performance, Global Changemakers. If we teach the children and the youth of these refugee camps to be artists, to be creators, to be graphic designers, fashion designers, singers, poets, they can survive from anywhere, because there are plenty of ecosystems that are already existing to support what they create and ensure that the money goes into their pockets. As human beings, at least we have preserved their right to work, the basic human right to work. We have given them an opportunity to create change within the communities that they are placed in. Refugee camps, hospitals, schools, wherever they are, we can support by teaching skills. We know that in order for our children, our own children, to survive, we teach them how to fish. We don't fish for them. We fish for them until a certain point in time, not beyond that. Now, if you have worked all your life and you are working in the system where children go from school to university, now if they can't do that anymore, what can they do? There's plenty of things that the world needs right now that depends on the work on the individual and the communities. Social entrepreneurship is 5 weeks course for $50 that we are willing to even discount if we must. In 5 weeks, we teach children and youth social entrepreneurship, design thinking, and project management. If we teach this to a few and a small number of youth and children and parents and whoever it is, we teach them how to create their own solutions, to utilize their existing skills for the creation of the tools that will enable them to survive. So what we ask you to do, we will suspend any activity that we do and that we are doing in Dubai, because we will put all our resources behind supporting war communities, whether in Ukraine and as priority in Ukraine, and a secondary priority in Lebanon, where the entire country has been taken into poverty and a refugee-like situation, with half of the country also hosting refugees from neighboring countries, especially Palestine and Syria. And therefore, what we will do now is start everything we've built for the Heartfulness Initiative remains the same. It's just that who do we serve it for? And who do we want to serve it for? Is for war-affected communities. How can you support us? You can support us by donating to a particular individual. We are creating human enablement. Same like you go to the coach, same like you go to the yoga class, same like you go to the psychologist, same thing. we will know exactly how much it costs to help people and on an individual level to become at their best human self within where they are actually affected by the war, no matter where they are. This is not just about refugees, this is about war-affected communities. It is our responsibility to support these communities, because the more we allow it to happen, the more we watch it on TV, the more we keep sitting behind our screens and talking about it, nothing of it matters. Because in the matter of fact is, if we don't do anything, these people are falling into mental illness on an immediate basis. We have a responsibility towards our families, we have a responsibility towards our mothers, we have responsibilities towards our motherland, to our mother tongue, to whatever responsibility it is, that we have responsibility to ourselves and our families. And I hope you will support us by donating against exact amounts that will go to exact humans, people, individually. And we will ensure that the whole process is very transparent. And we thank you for your support.